The reason for Kubernetes popularity is its rich object or resource model that is very easy to use and its architectural components that make up the Kubernetes cluster. In this lecture, you will learn about the important Kubernetes objects or resources starting with pod, deployment, service and namespaces. You will learn about more objects in lectures later on, and also you'll be deep diving into each one of these in lectures later on as you work hands-on on them. The first and the smallest of Kubernetes resources or objects is the pod. A pod is a layer of abstraction around our application containers. Here you have a pod which has three containers inside it: the product service, the coupon service and the DB server, which can use each other. All the containers within a pod will share the life cycle of the pod, meaning if a pod is up, that means all the containers within that pod are up. If a pod goes down, then all the containers in that are gone. Kubernetes will automatically create another pod. If one of the pod dies, it will create another pod with the same set of containers for us. And all these containers not only share the life cycle of the pod, they will also share the resources in the cluster like networking, security, configuration, and even data or volumes. Once you work with Docker or any other containers, working with pods is not difficult because pods are nothing but they can have more than one containers, one or more than one containers. And it is not mandatory that a pod should have more than one containers. You will see projects and applications where they have only one pod or one container within a pod. Once you have pods for your containers, you can manage the number of pods you want as a single unit through deployments. A deployment is a group or replicas of pods managed as a single unit. By issuing a command like this, you can create 3 pods from a single Docker image. So from this command, using kubectl against your Kubernetes cluster, you are creating a deployment called web server, and you are telling Kubernetes, please pull an image from the central Docker hub called HTTPD, which is the Apache web server image. Kubernetes will pull that image. It will launch a container out of that image and it will create a pod, but not just one pod. We are asking it to create 3 pods. -- replicas at the end represents the number of pods, duplicate pods we want on the cluster. Once they are created, we can update them, roll back to a prior version, and we can even have reconciliation and auto scaling as well. All the cool things that I have explained about Kubernetes in the introduction lecture, all that is possible through deployment. So auto updates and rollback, meaning we can go back to a certain version of the cluster through the deployments. We can ask Kubernetes to reconciliate, meaning if one of the pod here out of these 3 goes down, Kubernetes always knows by looking at the deployment, it knows that the user has requested for 3 replicas at any point in time. So if one pod goes down, automatically it will create another pod. So it looks at the deployment, it looks at the cluster, and then that is how it will reconcile the cluster state for us. And auto scaling, we tell Kubernetes that if one of the pod is using too much resources or if it cannot handle the load, say if one of the pod has gone, it is using 80% of the CPU, then we can tell Kubernetes through the deployment that please spawn off another pod or please spawn off 3 pods. And if the load on our pod goes down, please bring down those pods. All that is possible through a deployment. We can manage the pods within the cluster from a single point called deployment. That is the second and important object or resource in the Kubernetes cluster. Now that we have a deployment through which we can create any number of pods we want, how can these pods access each other or applications outside the cluster access these pods and containers within them? That is where the service comes in. Through the service object, each of these containers within the cluster can work with each other, or each of these pods can communicate with each other, and the applications outside the cluster as well can communicate with the pods in the cluster and vice versa. So once you create a service object, it acts as a load balancer for your application depending on the amount of access you want. Is it just in the cluster, or should the containers inside the cluster be accessed from outside, or can they be even mapped to an external entity? Depending on that, there are different types of services you can create. Cluster IP, node port, you can use an external load balancer like a Microsoft Azure or even Amazon load balancer or Google load balancer, etc. So all that is possible through service. Service simply provides the required networking for the pods and the containers within them so that they can access each other. By default, when you create a service, it is of type cluster IP, meaning the pods and the containers can access only the other pods and containers within the cluster and not outside the cluster. And the same, the world outside will not be able to access your containers and pods within the cluster if you use cluster IP. If you use node port, this service will expose out a higher number port for you, and the world outside can access your containers and pods through that port and an IP address that is given. And your applications will also be able to communicate with the world outside. Load balancer, you can configure, as I said, an external load balancer to balance that traffic across nodes within your cluster. This could be Amazon, this could be your own load balancer, this could be Azure, and so on. Last and one more very important object is namespaces. A namespace, if you are a Java developer, it's just like a package. If you are a .NET developer, it is a namespace. If you are a Node developer, there are packages and modules for you. So when there are multiple applications within an organization that are using the Kubernetes cluster, we don't want these applications to use each other's spaces, or we don't want these teams to step on each other's toes. That is where namespaces come in. They logically divide the cluster space for us, and each team will have their own namespace and their own resources that are allocated to this namespace, and they should stay within those resources. They can't use up the resources of another team because another team will have their own namespace as well. So it is simply dividing the cluster logically. The space we have will be allocated per team, or however you want to divide it. You can do that using a namespace. You create a product team namespace, give it to them. They will create their pods, deployments, services, volumes, etc. within that namespace. And the coupon team will do the same so that they will not touch each other's resources. So in this lecture, you have learned a lot. You have learned that pods are the smallest objects or resources in the Kubernetes cluster. They simply are a layer of abstraction around your application containers, and all these containers will share the pod's lifecycle along with the networking, security, etc., all the resources inside the cluster. A deployment allows us to manage a group of pods. Kubernetes will look at our deployments and do the auto updates, rollbacks, reconciliation if pods go down, and auto scaling and all that. And services, once we have these pods up and running through a deployment, services are the objects or resources in the cluster that will give access to these pods. So each pod can access another pod, each container within the pod can access another container within the pod through this service. And there are different levels of access. Depending on what level of access we want to give, we'll use a particular service type like cluster IP within the cluster, node port, external access is possible. Load balancer sits on top of these two. Along with exposing things to outside world, we'll configure an external load balancer. You have also learned that namespaces are simply logical grouping. So you will create, as a DevOps engineer, he will simply create a node space and give it to a particular team, and then the team can go ahead and create their own pods, deployments, services, volumes, and configuration. And any other team can do the same without stepping on each other's toes. Video helpful? Please do comment and share. If you enjoy my teaching style, do check out my full stack learning paths for Java, Python, Angular, React, along with DevOps tools like Docker, Kubernetes, and Amazon Web Services. You can find the latest links to these courses with maximum discounts applied by going to my website www.bharatthippireddy.com. Keep learning, sharing, and growing.